All right, we're live. Look at this. Oh man, it's been a day. My air conditioning was not working when I woke up this morning. Actually, when I came home from work last night, my air conditioning was not working, and the furnace board was out. So, the company that takes care of our HVAC took care of it today. Did a great job. So now I have air conditioning. Hello, everyone, buddy. Nice to see you here. We have just so much to talk about this live stream. In part because we didn't have a live stream last week with the 4th of July holiday here in the U.S. But also, man, it's been a news week. This week has been packed. And I thought we had a lot of stuff to talk about. And then I get this email from Belkin, which is very cryptic, but interesting. So, whoops, hold on. Not ready to show that. There we go. All right. Now you should be able to see my screen. Nope. Oh, back to live mode. Finish. Okay. Now you should be able to see my screen. Great. So Belkin sent in an email this afternoon saying they're dropping support for a bunch of features, or basically their technical support for products which they conveniently don't really make very clear what things they're dropping support for. And it's basically just all of their old products. So really the big thing that you need to know about this is just if you happen to have a Belkin Wemo doorbell, which is the most likely thing you own, or one of their scene controllers or smart plugs with thread, some of their recent products, those are still supported. What I was concerned about with this announcement is Belkin dropping Wemo as sort of a sub-brand? Are they getting out of smart home tech? And no, it's not that bad. So I just wish in the original email they didn't say this doesn't affect and then list these random SKUs, which, of course, these SKUs, they didn't say the names of the products. And it made it kind of confusing, like, what's going on. And maybe you got this email if you're a Belkin Wemo user as well. If you're not familiar, Belkin is, a company that's made all kinds of accessories and tech over the years, and they've made the Wemo line of products, worked with Apple Home since the very early days. And with that, of course, the biggest, most recent product from them, I think, from the smart home side was probably their stage controller, little thread-based switch, but then also, their Wemo doorbell, which until recently I really liked as like one of the better smart home HomeKit doorbells. Of course, the Aqara G410 launched today, which is other news. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about this right now because I'm working hard on a review and I don't want to spoil share too many of my thoughts right now. Well, before the review comes out. But it's there's the page. So exciting new release from Aqara you should know about and keep an eye out for my review of that. It might be your best option right now for Apple HomeKit Secure Video Doorbell. But that said, is that actually what you want or not? I think, I loved the Ecovib doorbell for a while. If you're into that system, there's also I've been using for a while before the G410, the Unify, what's the name of the model? The G4 Pro, which has the dual cameras. And so I'm getting too much into what I want to say in my review. But I'm excited to see Aqara have this new doorbell out, and I think it's probably the one to buy. And it was kind of like I intentionally didn't really mention much the G4 doorbell because I think, long story short, I can't envision a reason other than just maybe the price, of course. That'd be one reason. But aside from the price, which this is about $130, so we're not talking about, in the grand scheme of things, for a lot of people, probably not that much money, but still, other than that price, I think there's no reason to buy the G4. Buy the G410 if you're debating between those two doorbells. But there's more layers to the decision, and I'll get into all that in my upcoming review. So let's get back and say hi to some folks in the chat. 117 there in Phoenix. Oh, thanks, break time. Thanks for joining. Yeah, it's summer. It's hot. It's obviously not nearly that hot here. Today was a beautiful day. We didn't, thankfully, for a day to have my air conditioning broken, it didn't get all that hot here. It was like high 80s. But last week it was consistently 95 and up there. And yeah, I think we'll have more of that weather soon. Yeah, Logitech's still a valid option. Yeah, been using your Apple Home. Great to hear, Mr. and Mrs. Banks. It's we'll see what happens with Logitech over time. I know a lot of people have had Wi-Fi issues with that doorbell, the Logitech Circle View doorbell, but if it's working well for you, great. I don't think there's a reason to change or upgrade to this new doorbell from Aqara for that. There could be some other niche edge case reasons why you would want to upgrade, but that's getting into more of the details. Now, hey, Edgar's Home Tech, thanks for joining. And hey, Jeff from Georgia, Kenton, Georgia. So if you look at the edge of my frame here, you might see something that I'm really excited about that's now available from, speaking of more products this week, from Govee. They released their tree floor lamp. Now, I'm hoping sometime soon I'll have a short out about this. So talking more about my thoughts on it, but it's here. So the Govee tree floor lamp. Let me go ahead and show you guys. So I saw this at CES, and yeah, I really love all of how it works. Like, each of those lights, you can do this telescoping effect. So you can change how focused or broad the light is. And it's I think it looks really stylish for a smart home light, which is another big plus. And so far it's working pretty well for me. Govee sent it to me, but that, my promotion or talking about it is not sponsored. It's just me being excited about the lamp that I saw and asked them for. And the one downside, though, as I'll mention in my short, is that you can't control these individual lights in Apple Home. What I was hoping is they'd be able to do some kind of a multiple, you can do, I forget the exact Matter term for it, but like multiple accessories inside of one sort of Matter accessory. And I was hoping that they could have multiple lights inside of, because there's only 3, right? So if you get, let's say, the Matter Nanoleaf outdoor string lights or Govee outdoor string lights, like those things have hundreds of lights on them. They're obviously not going to expose each individual light to Matter in that case. But with 3 lights, I thought maybe that's what they do, but they did not. So you can go in the Govee app and control it and add scenes. And then in Apple Home, you can just set colors and brightness across the whole lamp. And it does not support adaptive lighting, which was another kind of big downside. But I love the design and the look of it. So I think this concept is a really cool one. And I hope that Govee continues to iterate on it. And I hope other companies copy them in the, or get inspired by this and make their own versions. I'm sure Nanoleaf could make a cool, similar style version of this. So we'll see what actually happens there. But yeah, that's the Nanoleaf floor lamp. And hopefully you're seeing my Safari screen. I've changed some things with my live streaming setup, and I just kind of quickly hit go tonight, and it seems like everything's working. Hey, Jonathan, thanks for joining. Good to see you here. Oh, yeah, and nice, from Charleston, South Carolina. Very cool place. I know a friend of a lot of ours, Shane Watley, loves Charleston. The Govee uplighter floor lamp is also awesome. Yes, I saw, speaking of Shane, I saw him talking about that. And I saw that at CES as well. I agree. And I think I like how that one, I think if we're both talking about the same model, it has like the down light as well as the uplight. So it's sort of be like a reading light as well as then a light that kind of gives ambient color to the room. So yeah, a lot of clever lamps from Govee that just came out. And yeah, we can pull that one up so everybody can see what Buddy is talking about. Yeah, here we go. Cool. So this is the uplighter floor lamp, slightly different model from Govee. Personally, I don't love the look of the top of it, but like that's just a personal opinion. I think, and yeah, you can get really cool effects as it's showing. I mean, this is a little exaggerated here in the photo, but lots of flexibility of things you can do with it. So yeah, that's the uplighter floor lamp, another one out there. I was surprised at how many products like this came out the week of Prime Day. I really thought that people would do Prime Day and then like products afterwards. But they're all here at the same time. Nice. Greetings from Tampa, Florida. Tampa Bay, Florida. Bavisha, guessing on your pronunciation of your name. Great to see you, and thank you. I'm glad you enjoy my content, and congrats on your new home. That's exciting. You know, that's a good point. I guess the colors... You know, I think the whole concept of like colors in smart home tech, I think is one of these things that people in general that I kind of like, as a YouTuber, I pay attention to like what people are interested in, obviously, because I want to make videos about what people are interested in. And I do feel like colored lighting is kind of a niche within smart home tech, and that there are plenty of people who love smart home tech and try lots of different products, automations, whatever, but they're not really into colored lighting. And I can understand it to a certain extent if you just don't like, it's not a priority for you, right? It does usually take extra effort just to set up those lights, add them to your smart home. It's another piece of your smart home chain of things that could go right or wrong. So I can sort of empathize with that side of it, that like I didn't really have a lot of colored lights in my home until I started getting smart home tech. And then I didn't really get a lot of colored lights until I started actually doing it on YouTube and like getting them for free. But since then, I've sort of been turned around a little bit to it. And I think one of the things that really makes colored lighting fun is when you get that like light that, because this light, for example, you can just have it be a plain color, right? That's like more just a plain light. So if you just saw it in the room and you just were visiting the house, you wouldn't think, oh, that's a colored light, right? So there's that side of it too. You can make it a non-colored light. So but I think as well, once you start adding a lot of scenes to a smart home, then what you can do is, there we go. Now I made it white. But then what you can do is have a lot of colors come as accents on your scenes and really add a lot of personality to your room that fits the mood of the scene you're trying to set, right? So a movie time scene is different than like I'm going to work in the living room, or I want to have a nice cozy reading scene with a bunch of orange or colored light. And so I think that's like one other side of it. But the other piece of this, I think, that also goes hand in hand with this lighting is accent lighting, because that's another thing that is kind of overlaps a little bit with colored lights and all these Govee lights, but I think it's distinctly different. You go into a lot of high-end homes or see pictures of high-end homes, and like there's all kinds of LED light strips around, like toe kick lights and things, and around closets and stairs and other places that look beautiful, right? They're usually tastefully done and hidden inside of pieces of furniture inlaid with like some kind of a diffuser and nice versions of those string lights that are not smart but can be controlled by, let's say, a smart switch. Like Lutron, actually, even speaking of high-end homes like that, Lutron for their Caseta line has a dedicated dimmer that is specifically for random edge cases of LED lights, like LED light strips, because so many of their customers were using LED light strips that they made this like dedicated switch for it. And so that's definitely another side of it too, where then once you get a bunch of scene set, you can also have a bunch of accent lighting that kind of coordinates with the main lights in your home. Now, this is all kind of a drawn out way of getting to the point of just that these kind of lights, they take a bunch of extra effort to put in. You have to find the places where they work well. You have to find the products that work well for your home. Sometimes I find they can be maybe on the flaky side, but in certain cases. And so like if you get a product that's flaky and disconnects from your smart home, that's a whole other maintenance side of things. So it's a lot of extra added work. So in some ways, it's also kind of like an advanced smart home thing where it takes a little bit more thinking and just finding the right thing. Now, if you're hearing this and thinking, oh, maybe I want to try some smart colored lighting, I think a good place to start is an LED light strip. There's lots of LED light strips out there, and you can do a lot with an LED light strip. Especially be sure you get one that is cuttable, that you can cut the LED light strip down to size. Now, a lot of them they can't cut, but only in certain intervals. The Govee Light Strip 2 Pro is a good one from Govee. Aqara actually has a really solid light strip. If you like Aqara products and have like an Aqara bridge, maybe this new G410 doorbell, you could potentially use that. Now, the Aqara one is not, or both of those are rated for indoors. There are outdoor light strips. That's a whole other thing. I've just been, speaking of accent lighting with that, like that's another area where I just haven't really cared. I know a lot of channels in this YouTube space have talked a lot about outdoor smart lighting. And I don't have any wiring in my yard to run those, and I don't feel like putting wires in my yard to run a bunch of smart lights. And so I have not invested the time to make my home that way. And there's also like a whole element too of like, I'd rather not film my house from the street, just from a privacy perspective. I mean, yeah, if you really try hard, I'm sure you could figure out where I live. But, I'd rather just keep it to like not showing my house from the street as like another element of just further giving that away. And that you kind of have to do that when you talk about outdoor lights. So all of them is just, I have not been really interested in outdoor lights. And that's a whole other similar area, right? Where a lot of people love having colored lights. And I think it's great. It's not something I've been into. So yeah, that was kind of a little tangent. But that's what live streams are for, and great discussion. Love to hear any thoughts you guys have in the chat colored lighting, not. I see a bunch of good thoughts coming through here already. Enjoy colored lighting in small amounts, like behind the TV. Yeah, or in my home office. That's another good point, Jonathan. By the way, Jonathan, I love your sort of Notion style profile picture. Very cool. I think the office side is a really good point. Now, I do think sometimes colored lighting can get a bad rap, and just like people look at and think, oh, that's just RGB gamer stuff, and if you're not into gaming or you don't have a gaming PC or something, you feel like, oh, that's just not for me. And that's one of the other sides of what I was trying to say earlier is I don't think people should think that way. Like, colored lighting can be for everybody. Any idea why the Aqara battery operated presence sensor? No, I don't have any tips for you on that, Saul, at this point. Hey, See the World with Chris. Thanks for joining. Good to see you here. Yes. So, good question, E. Johnny. We just talked about this a little bit earlier on in the live stream. I don't know if you can rewind, I think in YouTube's stuff, but I have a short coming tomorrow, and you cannot address, or not, I shouldn't say tomorrow. I have a short coming on this, and you cannot uniquely address it as 3 different lights in Apple Home. Maybe there's a way with Home Assistant that I haven't figured out yet. There might be, but it's only really in the Govee app right now. So, okay. Hey, Ratchet Gang, another regular attender, regular viewer. Good to see you here. Oh man, is there another Eufy product that came out? Bhavsha, let's see. Because the last thing I knew of that I talked about was the Eufy solar-powered HomeKit secure video cameras that came out last year. But yeah, the S3 Pro. Maybe someone can mention in the chat if there's a model number. I mean, I think a lot of Eufy's cameras are very good, and I think the advantage of Eufy in general is just that it's just like a complete smart home camera system that's also pretty easy to set up and has a lot of features. And I often find myself recommending Eufy to people just as a easy way to get started, right? You don't have to pay any subscriptions with Eufy, and you can put everything on your home base. Now, if you have a flaky internet connection upstream, right? So if you have like a really slow cable connection where if you test your speed test for upload and it's like 12 megabits a second, maybe you'd want to be trying to put your video in the cloud so you can get it faster away from home. But if you have a decent uplink speed, let's say 20 megabits per second or more, then you're probably fine. And I know the latency is more of a thing than the megabits per second, but usually it's harder to look at latency for a lot of people, and megabits per second is easier to kind of understand. And it's usually the two go hand in hand, at least with a hardwired internet connection to your home. So yeah, I think the S3 Pro was a really good camera, is a good camera. I have 2 of them still outside my home. I still use them in Apple Home. And that said, though, I think that, once you move to a system, I make it sound like this isn't inevitable, but if you move to a PoE camera system like Ubiquiti Unify Protect, everything else just feels like play toys. And that was also one of the things, like, I was sad to move away from having my G4 Pro doorbell on my front door to test the Aqara one. The Aqara one, is a great doorbell, but it's it's nice to have that whole system. And I imagine Rail-Link is similar, but I know with Unify Protect, because that's what I've used at kind of at that camera level, that, it just makes everything else feel a little bit not quite all the features. You don't have the continuous video recording. You do in certain cases with Eufy if you run consistent power, but then also like the video is sometimes more compressed, oftentimes more compressed than it is on some of these PoE cameras, and you just get better dynamic range, usually better cameras, but you're looking at a significant investment more. So I think, and you're also looking at something like running Ethernet cable through your home might not be possible if you rent, or might just be, it's a lot of time and effort and work to run Ethernet cable. I went over to my brother-in-law's place about a month ago and helped him, and like we spent an afternoon running one cable, and it was just like it's a big help for his home now that he has that cable running from the basement up to the office on the first floor. But like it's a significant time investment, especially then when you want to have a lot of cameras. So it's not for everybody. So that's where I think Eufy can be a nice kind of blanket. You don't have to think about it as much, and it kind of takes care of itself. Also, the other cool thing, now people have told me, and I've thought about getting actual setup of solar, because people have told me I have a very good house location for solar. So with that in mind, I have not had to charge my Eufy cameras, my S3 Pro cameras at all since I installed them last fall. And that's through the winter where it's, cloudier and not as sunny as much. They just continue to slurp up more power as the sun comes out. And that's even as well with just the built-in solar panels on the S3 Pro. It's not even the extra panels that you have to put out. So, and they give you one of those extra panels in the box, if I recall from my review. But yeah, so it's another impressive thing about those Eufys. You just put them up and you don't have to worry about charging them, which was certainly not the case back in the day when I reviewed some earlier Eufy cameras. Just the batteries weren't as capable or whatever. Oh, HuSync can only do 10 lights to a room. That's a cool, interesting point. I hadn't thought about Tar Hat. But hey, yeah, nice to have you. Thanks for joining. Oh yeah, so you, Bhavisha, sounds like yeah, I mean, that's another camera system, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm catching up on the chat here. Ring is another camera system that's like pretty hard to get wrong. Like it's used by so many people so broadly, but it's just one that I have not been as interested in beyond just some curiosity of testing it a little bit on my channel. I think it clearly has the most market share. And I think the downside there for a lot of people is that you quickly get into needing a subscription for video recordings, which I don't have a problem with myself. I think it makes sense, but plenty of people don't want to pay a subscription for video recording. And to be honest, like I've had a number of cameras over the years where I've needed to pay a subscription and then gone to cameras where I don't. And it's nice just to get rid of that extra expense every month or year or whatever it is. It's one less thing to worry about. So yes, Saul's another Unify Protect fan here. Armorous cameras, I have not tried those. I know George Langbeer is injured, and usually a tender in this chat who knows more about different security cameras. But we actually have some more Apple news to get to as well. That's not as closely smart home related, but I wanted to talk about. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Let's see, where was I? So IKEA has moved. Oh, actually, before we get to the Apple news, I did want to mention, like, of course, IKEA stopped selling their IKEA stopped selling their Sonos speakers, and now they're going to also have Apple Home support with their new Matter over Thread hub. I'm kind of interested to try this. I haven't played with any IKEA smart home tech ever, and I feel like I'm kind of missing out on something, but I just wanted to mention it here. Maybe I'll get into this one of these days soon, try it out. The Dirigera hub. So that will support Matter and therefore Apple Home, which is nice. And yeah, IKEA's new speakers, they just have Bluetooth and Spotify Connect. So it's a bummer to see IKEA move away from Sonos, but as I talked about in a previous live stream, I think that makes sense. I'm not in that I feel like Sonos is probably going, generally speaking, for a little bit higher end customer than IKEA. I mean, I have lots of IKEA furniture and Sonos speakers, but so I'm not saying it's never the case, but I just think that it kind of made Sonos speakers like the Era 100 be less attractive when you could go buy a Sonos IKEA, or made the Era 100 was less attractive because you could go to IKEA and buy a Sonos speaker that didn't sound as good, but it was half the price at, let's say, $100. And then the price crept up a little bit, like it was $130, I think, when they stopped selling it. But I just think it makes more sense for IKEA to be doing their own thing with Bluetooth and let Sonos do their own thing. And there's more layers to some stuff going around with Sonos and third-party systems, which I don't think we have time to get to today, but I do want to get there one of these weeks soon in the live stream, just because I think there's some interesting sides there to talk about. Oh, cool! You're getting IKEA all in tech. Nice. Yeah. As much as I haven't bought their smart home tech, I love them as just a furniture company, and it's a very practical place where if you need something that they sell, like, you can go out to the store and then have it in your home very quickly, which is nice. Great. You just go to the store, you buy it, you put it in your car because it'll fit in your car because it's all collapsed, and then you assemble it at home. And yeah, the assembly is a thing to do, and kind of, but I almost treat it like adult Legos. And just like it's like getting a Lego set as an adult, and you can build it and then you have something nice to use. But I know not everybody feels that way. And so there's that. Looking for some door sensors and an alarm with no subscription. I thought Aqara was the right solution, but any other recommendations? Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for no subscription, I think Aqara is the best one, and they have some automations. You wouldn't necessarily need this to be, depending on how you want to configure your home, you could get one of your Aqara bridges to be an M1S bridge, which actually, go buy it right now. I think, it's still in Prime Day sale. But the M1S has a speaker, and then the nice part about the Aqara speakers is then you can do some more automations inside of the Aqara app for the door opens, play a sound, etc. When in the armed state. And that M1S hub actually shows as a security system inside of Apple Home as well. So you could potentially change some stuff there. And I think you could probably, get that in other smart home platforms. So you might need to create like a fake switch or something to bridge some of that between different platforms. But yeah, I think that could be really nice. I would go with Aqara there if you're not looking for a subscription. I've still been very happy with Abode, by the way. They work pretty well, work with Apple Home. No real issues, just with the basic security system there. But it is something you don't have to, but you basically get kind of like conned into paying for a subscription there. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing with the Matter over Thread stuff is that sorry, Edgar's Home Tech brings up a good point that I did not mention earlier, which is that this whole new IKEA hub is not supposed to come anytime soon, probably next year. So we'll see about that. But yeah, I would love to see them bring over a lot of their smart home devices to Matter over Thread. And like, then I think all those Matter over Thread devices won't actually need the Aqara hub or whatever, that you'll be able to just do it separately. But yeah, I'm hoping that the bridge will also bring it over. But it's a really big win for Matter that someone the size of IKEA is supporting Matter. I think that's a huge win. Which, speaking of which, one company that it continues to annoy me how they just don't support Matter is Ecovib. Ecovib does nothing to support Matter. They're not even part of the CSA, really, I don't think. And yeah, none of their products support Matter. And as much as Ecovib makes good thermostats, and I liked their doorbell and other stuff, like, I think they need to get on board with Matter. I know they support a lot of other systems, and I've mentioned this before on live streams, and Lutron, of course, doesn't support Matter, but they're at least very involved with Matter, and I think they're like intending to support it sometime soon. I don't know, soon is a relative term, right? Soon could be in the coming years. I'm not saying anything, I don't know anything about that, but Lutron is involved in Matter and trying to make Matter better, right? And Ecobee is just not playing the game. So I don't think that's a good thing on Ecobee's part, and I'd love to see them come around to joining the CSA and being a part of Matter, because I think they need to. And it's really nice, like, too, when I had an Ecobee thermostat for years, and it's sitting in storage right now, so I could test it later. But it's nice with the Nest one, of course, like I was testing the new early access to the Amazon's Alexa Plus, like AI-powered assistant, and I wanted to control my thermostat. My Nest thermostat is Matter enabled in Apple Home. I just say enable another platform in Apple Home. I get a new Matter code. I add it to Amazon, and boom, I have my thermostat in Amazon. No problems. And of course, there are other ways I could get it into Amazon's Alexa from Amazon and Google talking to each other. But this was an easy way to do it, and it all works. So it's the kind of stuff that I just feel like Ecobee users are going to miss out on. And that said, I don't know if it would be a good choice to buy a Nest thermostat because of all of Google's. So there's Google's like sort of dropping support for older versions early, and we talked about that in a previous live stream. So I'm not saying one is a better option than the other. They both have their kind of downsides. But that was a random tangent. All right. Yeah, it's a bummer. I agree, Bhavishah, that you have to get the 128 gig Apple TV to be a thread router. Probably some more Apple TV content coming on my channel sometime soon. I'm working on some stuff there. Hey, Modern Day Tech, Eric. Great to see you here. I loved your review recently of the Roborock Saros 10R. That is a really cool vacuum. As if you guys might have seen on my channel, I have one of those too. It's a cool robot. It's it's so thin and does a really good job. So great to see you here. Thanks for joining. What smart fan do you I'll recommend as a Prime Day purchase. Now, actually, yeah, because my AC was out, I usually have my Govee smart fan right over here, but it's not there because our AC was out for a lot of the day. That fan was relocated to a more strategic location. But generally speaking, now, disclosure, Govee did sponsor one of my Prime Day related videos. But that fan is a really good fan. And I bought that fan with my own money before Govee ever said they would sponsor in a related video or anything like that. So it's a Matter tower fan, and it works great in Apple Home. You can scan the code on the back, of the Govee fan and add it into Apple Home. I did have a few connectivity issues early on with my Govee Matter fan, but then some firmware updates from Govee seemed to fix all of that. So, yeah, I would say that Govee Life tower fan, just for a smart tower fan, not a ceiling fan, that can be a good option. For a ceiling fan, I have the Hunter Douglas, not Hunter Douglas. It's just a Hunter fan, I think, with their Connect platform in Apple Home. It is not reliable enough to say that I love it. It might be your best option, but I think generally speaking, another thing to make ceiling fans smart would be to get one that's works. I think it's DC power. I can't remember which one, but look at the Lutron smart fan controller and then get a fan that's compatible with that. Assuming you have a dedicated switch for controlling the fan, not the light, but just the fan on your wall, then that can be a great way to make a fan smart. We have that in our bedroom. It's really nice. So the fan itself is not smart, right? But the switch on the wall to control the speed and on off state of the fan is smart because it's a Lutron switch. So that's another one to keep in mind. Now, Lutron has not updated that to their new style of switches. So it still looks like the original Lutron style. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But yeah, that's another option there. So yeah, Ricardo. All right, cool. Aqua Tea Cape 68. I want to run a script at sunset every day to check that I have closed and locked my workspace and bike storage. I have HomeKit, Aqara door sensor, and HomeBridge. Cool. I'm going to go with right now, you could probably, I would reach for Apple Home first because I don't think you need Home Assistant necessarily for this. But you could just do 2 separate automations of when the sun rises. And you say, it's just only sunset. Sorry, that was sunrise wouldn't make sense. So at sunset every day, it then converts that to a shortcut and then just checks to see if those locks are set in the proper state, the door is set in the proper state. And if it's not, then it could, do something else to your smart home, maybe change a light a particular color, something like that. You could potentially, with Home Assistant, get it to send you a notification. Yeah. I'd love to hear some folks in the chat who might have some ideas to solve that one better. You bring up a good point that Johnny brings up a good point with Matter, that I would love to see Matter address somehow in some kind of standards or some kind of tools that would be available to the general public of just there aren't a lot of good ways to troubleshoot Matter issues, right? You're trying to add a device to your smart home, and a lot of the smart home platforms are kind of like a black box, right? You scan it and you get very opaque messages like setting up or adding or connecting, right? And you don't really know what's going on. I mean, some of those you can kind of guess, I think it's already on the Wi-Fi, but my smart home can't see it, or I think it's just not even getting on the Wi-Fi. Like, there are different kind of ways you can read into it, but like, you're right. I just think we need better troubleshooting for Matter, and it'd be so helpful. Yeah, I agree. Back to the Saros 10R, it did pack a lot of features. It's a good point, Matter Day Tech. Like, all the obstacle avoidance it has is very impressive. I'm really impressed with the obstacle avoidance there. There's still Prime Day deals on that. Another Prime Day related thing that, again, this was part of that same Roborock sponsor my channel disclosure, but me talking about this now, like this part, me on the live stream is not sponsored, is what I'm trying to say. But I was very impressed with the wet dry vac, like that whole concept. I never tried one of those. And whether you get a Roborock one or some other brand, just the concept of a wet dry vac that has this like spinning roller on the front to mop. I've also heard Tinaco, which is a sibling company to Ecovacs. They also apparently make good ones. I have not tried those. And then a powerful vacuum behind the roller. It's a really cool setup. And if you have kids or pets that spill food or other things on hard wood floors or hard tile floors, and you find yourself cleaning that stuff up, like this thing will it's like a power tool for that kind of mess. It just makes it so much faster to clean those up. So would highly recommend, if you're looking at last minute Prime Day deals, or just regardless in the future, think about one of those. They're really cool. Hey, Zane, good morning. I hope Friday is a good day. Yeah, and how to get notifications pushed. That's a whole topic, for another. There are a handful of services you could potentially use for that, but that's a topic for another, like diving in deeper another time. I'm sorry. But I would look at something, if you're looking for sending your push notification, what service would be good for that? There's a handful of them, but I can't remember the name of the one that I played with before. Is it Pushover? I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat's played with push notifications. Oftentimes I end up just using the app related to that thing to get a notification. Yes, it's DC. I was saying it right. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to misquote, but yeah, and you can control them on your Apple TV. That's a good point. Yeah, so another vote for the Lutron fan switch. Yeah, what Prime Day deals? You picked up some Anker battery banks. Cool. And chargers. That sounds like a good setup, Brandon. One of the things I got some like the Yolink devices. I want to start playing with Yolink stuff. I haven't played much with them, and so I just got some of their stuff, a small amount, on Prime Day sale. That's, I think, the only thing I've bought like that's Prime Day related, right? I also got a camera bag that was on sale for Prime Day. I don't know if I will keep it. It depends on how I like it in person. We'll see on that. That was the only other thing I got with Prime Day. Yeah, no unified deals. Although, man, they've been cranking out some software updates. A lot of new stuff with Unified Drive and things. It's exciting. Most of that was last week, I guess, not this week, but still, they've been busy. Yeah. Yes. I strategically did that when the kids would not be there to see it. But yes, it's like, oh yeah, I saw Dad spill milk on the kitchen floor. If for those who don't know, like I had that as like one of the tests in that part of the video where I spilled milk on the kitchen floor. Cause of course with vacuum, and the other thing I did there was I spilled a bunch of that like liquid IV kind of hydration sugar, basically like in the corner of the room to vacuum that up. That stuff, man, is so powder, like so dusty that it just leaves like that smell of that stuff in the room after you spill it on the floor. But both of those, like I did it when the kids weren't around, because otherwise that would not be good, right? So yeah, thankfully there was some time where they were at grandma and grandpa's house, so that's when I took advantage of that and did those shots. Oh, picked up a Thorbolt X1. Nice, that's exciting. Yeah, I think that looks like a cool lock. I've not had a chance to really play with it in depth. I've had other products to look at, but they sent me one and it looks cool. Ecovib Premium. Oh, nice. And the smart sensors. Cool. Yeah. The UNAS is expensive, especially when you get into lots of drives, Brandon. I know you've been talking about that for a while, but one of these days, but I can relate. It's a big investment. I ended up already having a bunch of relatively new hard drives that I could just repurpose into the NAS, so that made the price a lot more affordable for me to go with the UNAS Pro. But it's expensive. Now they did, like you can. Think you just need one drive to get it going. Technically, I know it. So you could potentially just get it and get a hard drive and upgrade more later. But yeah. Yes, thank you, Saul. That's a really good point about Yolink. I have a handful of ideas I'm playing with around a video around those. So yeah, they had a bunch of Prime Day deals on those, but it's not necessarily something that's really Apple Home related. Although you can, I think, get it in Apple Home. I'm gonna play with that different ways, but yeah, just the long distance nature of those and the ability with their app to get various alerts. Back to the push notification thing, it seemed like a nice tool to play with there. We'll see how that all works out. Yes, I've not an upsy desky to automate things like raising and lowering. I do have a standing desk. Before we get into like upsy desky and stuff, I will say, like, I don't really use my standing desk part of my desk all that much. There was a time back when I was younger where it's like I went through a phase where I was really into standing desks and I used the standing part all the time. I loved it. But I've just found that I don't do my best thinking when standing. There are definitely some times where, like, if I wasn't able to work out recently and so I'm feeling antsy, or like I'm in like a whole long series of meetings, right? Like if you have like, if you're like me at work and sometimes having back to back meetings for, hours on end, then it can be nice to stand up for some of that, just have some variety. But overall, like, yeah, I've, I don't always miss a standing desk. I think I generally just try and like find a time to take a walk during the middle of the day and like think about something and then come back. Not like a long walk, right? But just like 15 minutes, go out and come back and process what's going on. So yeah, let's see. I have not, okay, so Upsy, maybe some other folks in the chat know about this, but we'll put this up on the screen. Cool. So it's like an API to work with. Oh, nice, with MQTT. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so you could automatically have like your office scene that also raises or lowers your desk. I mean, that seems like a pretty fun idea. Bring your own. Okay. So you have to bring your own kind of controller for this, it looks like. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of these desks, they don't have a smart connection to them per se. So I was, speaking of brands of desks, I was recently at a co-working space that had the uplift desks, and those were really nice. I used those a handful of times while I was there. Long story short, it was not where I usually work, but was just there for a brief time, and they had uplift desks, and it was great. I know FlexiSpot does a lot of videos on YouTube. I've not tried their desks myself yet, but I've heard good things. It could be another company to look at. Oh yeah. You got 2G's worth of stuff in your cart. Nice, modern day tech. Yes. Although, like myself, modern day tech, you can probably write some of that off on your taxes. So there's always that side of it too. But nice. I'm glad you're having fun with Prime Day. And oh yeah, the MagSafe screen from Small Rig. I saw Steven Robles talking about that. It looks really cool. So there's this like Small Rig is a company, if you're not in the camera space, that does a lot of or if you don't like create content, right? You don't follow a lot of the like equipment to make content like this. Small Rig makes a lot of cool accessories, a lot of really affordably priced stuff, generally speaking. And yeah, they have this cool smartphone mirroring display where it has a little local area Wi-Fi network basically, and you can like, or maybe it's not even that, but it's like an AirPlay screen. So you can then AirPlay your screen from your phone with the screen mirroring feature to the monitor, and then you MagSafe it to the back of your phone, and then you can see yourself as you're taking the picture with the back camera on the phone. Or of course, content creation, you're filming yourself. So it's a cool idea. I almost pulled the trigger on that too, but I don't film enough with my phone to make that worth it for me. I tend to use other cameras. So, but it looked like a cool setup. Okay, yeah, and Saul's mentioning we're just jumping around all the topics. So Saul's mentioning Yolink through Homebridge. So that's I think what I'll try, Saul. Okay, so and yes, also I just quickly noticed a nice typo that you can film butter, which is of course what we all tune into Modern Day Tech's YouTube channel for, is the latest news on butter. You have a FlexiSpot E6 working well for you, 48 by 30 inch. Nice. Feels solid. Yeah, I mean, I've seen one of my friends has a FlexiSpot desk, and I've been to his house and seen it. And it's great. Like, it looks like a really nice desk and sounds great and works well. So, yeah, it could be a good option to consider. My standing desk I got so long ago, and it was one of those DIY kits where this actually is a countertop from IKEA that IKEA no longer sells, and then I put it on top of the sort of the DIY standing desk kit. So my particular desk is not one I would recommend, just because I have no idea if you could recreate what I have here, and I even wouldn't know if I'd really want to. Like, the motor I have is kind of weak, and it's not the most stable thing in the world. So maybe if I had like a more stable standing desk, I'd actually want to stand more. The other limiting factor too is just the ceilings in here where I am I try and hide it with the way I film, but it's not very high ceilings. I think maybe it's like 7.5 or 8 foot ceilings in here. And I also, while I do like to work from home, I've moved almost all of my work that's not like, me most days of the week when I'm working for my job, I'm out of the house and I'm at a co-working space instead of working here at home. So I don't, and that does not have a standing desk. It's just a sit desk. So that's kind of my limitations too, is like, why would I spend money on a sit stand desk for here when I don't sit and stand a lot here to work? But yeah, I used to spend a long time every day working in here, but yeah, just long story short, ended up being better for me other places for reasons we don't have time to get into right now. Yes, the ASMR style, modern day ASMR. It's your new channel. I know you have a handful of modern day series of channels, Eric. You could just do modern day ASMR with butter. Oh, thank you, Baba Shah. So, this is a whole tangent, which I won't take too much time because I know some people like this stuff and some people care about the camera side of YouTube and are interested in it. Other people could care less. So I don't want to get too off in the weeds. But I recently did kind of change up my setup again. And not too long ago, I guess it was a few months ago now. So I shoot with this right now is a Nikon Z5 II with a 28 millimeter prime lens. And this camera I have it set as kind of like my A-roll talking camera and filming like long extended things, right? So it's almost always at 4K 30p. And because I'm a 30 frames per second channel, I don't do any of the, fake cinematic 24p. That is, YouTube is TV. So YouTube should be 30p. It's not a cinema, but that's a side tangent. Anyways, with that, the Z5 II is really good. Great color and I think it's amazing power for the price. And then these are my other two cameras that I primarily film with. This is a Nikon Z6 III. So pretty similar sensor, but partially stacked is the big difference between the Z5 II and the Z6 III. And it has a 24-70 f2.8 Nikon lens on it. Cool thing about these Nikon lenses is that it has a like a little e-ink screen on here, so I can see like the millimeters I've zoomed in or whatever, some other data that you might want to have. It can do 4K 60 without a crop. So I love that look and ability to get that. It can also do 4K 120 if I want to have a little bit of a crop. So it's a nice B-roll and photo camera. So like photos for thumbnails and B-roll. And then this is like my all around. I use it way too much. It's like the easy camera to film, the Osmo Pocket 3. I got this long before the price. The prices now on this thing are way more expensive than I paid for it back in the day. Whoops. Yeah, my battery's at 8% because I was just filming with this a bunch before I got on here, actually for the tree lamp. And the Osmo Pocket 3 is an amazing camera. It's very handy. And I think it would be, if I were starting a YouTube channel today, I don't know, with the new prices, it's like $1,000. It's kind of expensive, would be an expensive camera to get, but it's so all around good camera that I might consider that. But yeah, mostly I try to shoot full frame with the Nikons, and that tends to give, a full frame sensor from any modern camera brand is going to give you a pretty good image these days. And I like with Nikon, they've really gotten to the point where a lot of their stuff is really nice hybrid cameras, right? So they're really good photo and video cameras. I find I used to shoot with a Sony a7 IV, and I had a lot of problems with that overheating for me. And I don't have any of those problems with the Nikons. So yeah. Yeah, you love the Pocket 3 too. It's a very handy camera. And the other thing that's underrated, or you might not think about with the Pocket 3 compared to other cameras, is that, yes, obviously this has a much smaller sensor for images than this does. But this thing is stabilized with a gimbal. And sometimes, depending on what you're trying to shoot, having it stabilized with a gimbal can make it look, in certain aspects, maybe even a little better than if I shot it with this and didn't put this on a gimbal. I mean, I could, but like that's a whole thing that takes a lot of time to set up and stuff like that. So, just being able to quickly pop this out, like that's a big plus in the Osmo Pockets column compared to a big camera. Yes, I know you're low on battery. I will charge you soon. Okay. I wouldn't be ashamed of that, Edgar. I think the iPhone is a really great way to record video. One of the big challenges, and this is, I promise we wouldn't get off in the weeds on this, but I love camera stuff, so it's my live stream, whatever. And we're getting close to the end here, but yeah, the thing with iPhone video is that it just, in so many ways, looks so good just right away. And even a few generations old iPhone, like you're still going to get really good quality video. And the big thing that I always struggle with myself, when you move from something like an iPhone or even an Osmo Pocket 3 up to a big camera, is that in a big camera, you have to be a lot more intentional with your autofocus or focus in general, and where things are where you're focusing in the picture and on what, especially if you're in tech reviews like smart home tech and you're filming things that are not a person's face, because every autofocus system these days can focus on somebody's face, right? But if you're trying to get a robot vacuum across the room and focus on it, that can be tricky. And like, I've been pretty pleased overall with Nikon's autofocusing stuff. I'm still getting the hang of it. Sony's was also solid. I tried Fuji for a little bit of time back in the day, and at least years ago, the Fuji autofocus was not where it needed to be. I imagine they've gotten it better since then, but excuse me, for video of tech products, you're not shooting like you're not shooting a person's face, and you're also not like taking a landscape picture of a city where you have a chance with the thumb thing on the back to get the exact point of focus. Those are the things I think Fuji probably does really well at. But yeah, Nikon's been great so far. But yeah, it's a whole other layer of complexity of like, where am I going to focus? What kind of focus tracking am I going to use for this shot? And all those different details of different styles of focusing for different scenarios. That's a whole level of complexity you don't have to deal with an iPhone oftentimes. So yeah, that's another big advantage of just shooting on an iPhone, is the simplicity there. And there are a lot of huge creators that just use an iPhone. So I don't think there's any shame in just using an iPhone. Yeah, iPhone B-roll for the win. Now that's the whole question then too, is like, what apps do you use to film B-roll on that? I tend to like Final Cut Camera these days. Even if you don't use Final Cut for iPad or Final Cut for Mac, I think it's a good little simple camera from Apple. But there's a handful of other, great apps out there. Kino is another one. So yeah, lots of fun apps that just make it easy to. The big thing with the iPhone, if you're new to this, keep in mind, if you film with a relatively recent iPhone, it's going to be trying to film in HDR video. And if you don't shoot everything you're doing in HDR, that's probably not going to work out well. So the nice part about getting a third-party app is then that means your camera, when you're just shooting videos of like your family or whatever, that can be in HDR, like a lot of people shoot with their iPhone. But then when you open up a separate camera app, it's going to shoot in Rec 709 or something, not HDR. And that's going to give you like a better video quality for then blending with other cameras or screen recordings or other stuff and putting on YouTube, not in HDR. So, but I've seen plenty of folks just publish the whole video shot in iPhone in HDR on YouTube or Instagram, and it looks good. It's just a whole other layer of complexity that I don't want to get into right now, and I think is pretty challenging to get to look right. So. Oh, Elgato Propter? No. I actually already have one of those from a long time ago, and it's a great machine. Oh, nice. Yeah, you have it's a nice camera setup. Cool. Yeah, and the X106, man, you got your hands on one of those. That's impressive. That's cool. Yes. Hey, but they're it's the most stylish camera ever. You know, I mean, maybe aside from Leica, but like, you know, Fuji cameras just look so cool. Like you just look cool when you have them around, and they can still get some great photos. You don't always need amazing autofocus. Yeah. Yeah, it is a great deal for the Elgato prompter. And yeah, if you're into video, even if you're not into video, like you've been watching it thinking, I don't know if I want to get into YouTube, but you have like a lot of web meetings. I've used my Elgato prompter for web meetings too, because the cool thing about it is that, especially, I would be more into this if I, let's say, worked in something like sales or things. Most of my meetings are inside of my company where like I don't need to like always be on my A game, right? Like video game with people in meetings at work. But if you do, like in a kind of like a sales or something similar capacity, an Elgato prompter means that then you can look straight into the camera or your webcam and then see the meeting people on the screen. And so they feel like you're looking them in the eye, which can be a really cool, like kind of thing. I mean, maybe kind of weird for people who aren't used to that, right? Like everybody else is just looking down at their video or their camera's up here, but like it can be a nice part of the Elgato prompter that might be worth it, even if you're never going to do YouTube or, you know, content creation, right? So keep that in mind. Oh, wow. Got it. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Robot mowers. Another thing I don't know. One of these days, maybe I'll get into. Oh, cool. A7C. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the Z10 is also nice too. Cool. Oh yeah, I never talked about lights or anything else or my mic. I mean, this mic. This is another thing, by the way. Last video thing. So, these little DJI mics, I got a white one too to look better on certain outfits. But then these little DJI mic mini, they're so good. And they like, there's this kind of thing where the iPhone takes so much of the guesswork out of taking a photo or a video, right? And there's so much smarts in the iPhone that it just looks at an image and it takes great video. These are like that for audio, where they have so much processing or capability inside of them that it's just like, you just put this on your body and like there's background noise, whatever. It's just like, no problem. It does a great job. And that's been a huge saver for me of just having to worry less about the audio, and just like I just put that on and plug it in my camera and boom, I'm good to go. And you could plug it into a phone too. Yeah, so those DJI mics are nice, but I don't think they're on sale right now. With that, I'm going to shut down this stream because we've been going a long time and I'm tired and I've had a long day. So thank you for tuning in. And I don't really have a video to show you this week from YouTube. I usually like leave a link to one if I have one, but I don't have one this week. So I don't know. Go have some fun. Talk soon. Bye.